Okay, so the quality is going to be a little low because I'm in Louisiana, and yes, I'm in Louisiana, family, having fun, but they have DSL, so it's low internet. All right, 12 people here. I'm going to close all my other tabs to get my best chance at faster speed internet. Close Lightroom. Get out of here, you. Anyway, how is everybody? What are y'all up to on this Friday? Where are you? Is it nice? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it snowy? I'll play guitar for a minute until more people come in. Hey, 79 degrees. That's all right. I'm in just outside New Orleans, and it's 50. Couple today. It was super nice yesterday. It was like 70. Yesterday we had one day last weekend. The first day we were here, it was like 77 degrees. $78 degrees. You guys are all doing all right. I have a story. I have a story that made me like genuinely upset, and all of my like injustice has roiled up. So I'll tell you about that here in a minute. Jonathan Welch. Oh, Jonathan Welsh. Okay, I have a good friend named Jonathan Welch. That's who I thought you were, but he's a CH. Rainy in London. Still in lockdown. I'm sorry. It's been interesting coming to Louisiana, just seeing how different lockdown and COVID and stuff are here than they are back in Virginia. If you can't see, I'm playing my Waterloo. Sorry, that was probably quite loud. So we came to Louisiana. It was a little bit kind of a last second choice for us to get out. We just, man, it was just cold and snowy and rainy, and our kids, and we have a tiny house. Our house is like, maybe it's not technically a tiny house, but it's about 1,000 square feet. So with 3 kids, man, it was a time to get out and do something fun. So we jumped in the car. We drove in one day. We drove 1,000 miles with 3 kids. We left at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we made it down here. I brought everything I need with me to make cool videos. I didn't count on my in-laws. I mean, it's just they kind of live out in the country a little bit. And so this is the best internet that they have, but it's DSL. So I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can. We'll be here for next week. And so I might find a different location to do a video with faster internet for next week. But in the meantime, we're here. We'll hang out on a Friday afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope that you are, I hope you're having a good week and you're kind of seeing the end of, not that work should be something you look forward to being over. I hope that your work is deep and meaningful, because I think that's a deeply human thing, is our work. Like, our work is the way that we make the world a good and right place. But anyway, hope you're excited about the weekend. So the Hudson Valley, New York. Isn't Hudson Valley? Isn't that where like the Tuttles are from? Yeah. Isn't Montgomery in the Hudson Valley? I don't know. I've never been there, but I used to love American Chopper. Loved it. So an update. Yeah, we're in Louisiana. I told you all that. We are hanging out here. We'll be here for a couple weeks. We're kind of indefinite. We'd like to get home around the time that Lent starts, so Ash Wednesday, here in a couple weeks. But at the same time, we don't really have to. But we're here for a bit. I do have some fun guitars coming. I'll jump in. I'll give you kind of the update of what I've been hunting this week. So I came to Covington, Louisiana, which is where we lived for 6 years. My wife grew up here. I had a guitar shop around here. So I filmed some stuff. I'll put out a video about why my guitar shop didn't work out down here. And yeah, just the current state of like how do guitar shops make money and what's, the state of guitar shops. So came down, hung around, flew my drone a ton, and had some fun stuff go on. Took a bunch of pictures, took a bunch of videos. And then I started looking for guitars. I've got a couple kind of in the pipeline that I hope to get. I got one. One was given to me today for free. If you're on my Instagram, you should go follow me on Instagram. I went live earlier today and I showed that guitar. Let me grab it. We'll talk about it. I'll be right back. Here it is. Oh boy. So it's a really beautiful guitar. I'll show you. So this is one of the Yamaha, the Trans Acoustics. So this has the mic inside, or the amplifier inside, and has all the effects here on the side. So looks like it has chorus and reverb, and then you can adjust your line output as well. But this guitar is really broken. I'll see if I can get it close so you can see it. Come on, don't look at my face. Oh, come on, camera. The autofocus works different when I plug my camera straight in to the computer. But there's a break right down here, a big one. Can you see that? There's a break all the way across. So the story is I got this guitar for free from one of my little cousins. So he's 14 or so. He was playing guitar. He was playing at church a couple months ago. It's super dirty. It must have been more than a couple months ago. But he was playing guitar at church, and I think he handed the guitar to his little brother. He thought his little brother or his dad put it in the back of the van. He didn't put it in the van, and it ended up getting smashed under as they pulled out. They backed up over this guitar. So it's interesting. It's not actually that like smashed up. I don't see any there's no like finish damage anywhere. Like it doesn't look beat up. It still looks very good. It's just the only place that it's broken is just like a full break all the way across the neck here. So it's cool. I've got Danny, so I've got the Fret Boss in Stanton, Virginia, and this is something like right within his wheelhouse. I think he can fix. And because they gave it to me, they got him another one. They're not worried about getting any money out of it. I'll get to fix it up, and I'll fix it up and either sell it or give it away. And yeah, if you're interested in this, and if that's an interesting story, follow along, and then I'll give you the info on how to get it. So that's all. There's a huge caveat. This guitar may just be dead on arrival, and we might not be able to do anything with it. But it is cool. It's really pretty. I like this top. This is by far the nicest. It's the FGTA. So the FG Trans Acoustic. Made in China. And then, there's like Russian letters in there. That's interesting. I've never seen that. But yeah, so Yamaha made in China with Russian font in there. But I think these are solid top and then laminate back and sides. Yeah, it's a solid top. Do you guys know that trick? If you want to tell if a top is solid, it seems fairly easy, but you can just look, and if you see the wood grain all the way through the top, I didn't know that for a long time. So I think that's one of the easy ways to do it. So I got that. I got this guitar. I also am trying to buy a Manuel and Patterson, which is a wonderful small luthier in Folsom, Louisiana. And so I'm really excited. I'd love to buy one of their guitars. I've been trying to buy this guitar from the same guy for 5 years now. He keeps like tempting me and telling me, but in the end, it's a small body. So it's a double O red spruce top, mahogany back and sides, 12 fret slot headstock. Super cool guitar, but it's made by Manuel and Patterson, which are a very small builder in Louisiana, and so not many people know who they are. So it's tricky to get people to pay any real money. And it's not a guitar that at this point in my life I can just buy and keep, especially because I have a guitar. I have a couple of guitars that are so similarly spec'd that I can't have much redundancy in my guitar collection. So I put some Q&A on Instagram. So we'll jump over there and I'll run through. Hang on. I put them in my photos. I can also tell you the story here of my nose. I'll tell you that. I'm 33. I'm not old by any stretch. But I have 3 kids, and there are regular days that I'm like, the motivation for staying in shape has changed. It used to be I wanted to be strong, I wanted to be capable, I wanted to be able. Now I just don't want to throw my back out when I'm jumping on a trampoline with my kids, or when like a kid jumps off some stairs and I have to grab them. It's just the motivation has shifted and changed. And so the other day, as we're driving, my wife is sitting in the passenger seat on the right side, and she found several just bright white beard hairs coming aside, and then just telling me how gray I'm going. And so anyway, I was feeling a little old and a little worn out, and there's a trampoline in the backyard. So I decided this is my moment. I'm going to do a backflip. I'm going to prove to myself and to everyone that I'm still strong and able and capable and whatever. And I jumped on the trampoline in front of my kids, my wife, my in-laws. And I knew from the instant that my feet hit the trampoline as I was pulling to do the backflip that I did not commit. I came in about 40% and I really didn't commit enough. So I jumped, and it was both so fast and so slow that I flipped in the air, and I knew I was not going to make it. And I tried to stick my feet out to stick the landing, but it did not work. And so I ended up just like feet instantly before my face. Then my face just whack, just flat on the ground, on the mat of the trampoline. And so yeah, so it didn't seem that bad at the time. I looked on the trampoline, and there was kind of this mushroom shape that was the grease from my forehead. There was a triangle from where my nose had squashed flat on the trampoline, and then there was just a big wet triangle that was going ha from when I just all of the air in my body evacuated as I crumpled onto the trampoline. So anyway, quit fighting with those boys down there. Anyway, so yeah, trampoline. I think I'm old. That's my last backflip. I have a video. I didn't get any video of it, but I'll tell that story in the coming from Virginia to Louisiana. Yeah, let me pull up these questions and we'll get in. If you have questions, please let me know in the comment. Sorry, I'm laughing at commitment can be scary. It's true. Yeah, especially when you're like, I can do this, right? Yeah, I can muster. I can. When you're talking yourself into it that hard. I was talking with my brother-in-law, and it's such a funny, like, everything bad in life starts with, you used to play high school ball, right? And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I did. And then next thing you know, you got rug burn on the side of your face from playing football in a gravel parking lot. Mark Dugan, a good friend of mine here in Covington, he said he's not going to be able to make the show, but did I play any manual Patterson guitars while I was local? So that's one of the things that I was talking about. I'm trying to find one of those around here. I didn't finish that thought. I'm also looking. I've emailed a guy. I'm trying to talk to him. There's a 50s J50, a Gibson J50 that I'd like to see. He's asking a lot of money. It's been for sale for years. It's just way above market. He's asking $6,500, which I think is like just total tippy toppy tip top market price. And then there's a Manuel and Patterson, and then there's also a 65 Gibson a 65 Gibson ES330, which 330s are my favorite Gibson arch stops. If I could own one, that is that is high on my list of dream guitars to own. My friend Mike Davis owns one. So if you know Mike Davis in Virginia, he's really well known for playing around kind of everywhere, lots of bars and vineyards and all kinds of stuff. Tell Mike that he should sell or give me his 330. It's an amazing, and his is cool because I think it's shorter scale and it has nickel covers. Most of them have either chrome or black covers. I think the nickel covers are so cool. So, okay. So the Manuel and Patterson guitars. They build they build very Martin style guitars here in Louisiana. I said a little bit about them. They're in Folsom. They're really cool. They're just not very well known. So they're wonderful guitars, but they're hard to find. And then there isn't much like if you're buying one, you're going to own it for a long time, unless you find someone else local that wants one. Have I ever tried a pedal steel? That is from Numbers Bud. I have I've owned 2 pedal steels. I've tried to play. I really wanted to play a pedal steel, and actually one of my more interesting an idea that might turn into a guitar video at some point, a story worth telling. A couple years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, before we moved to New Orleans, I bought it was a 1953 a Showbud? No, it was a Fender. It was a 9-string. It was a 9-string and a 10 string and a 9 and a 10 string. And it had a bunch of Showbud extras with it. So it was a Fender lap steel, but it had a bunch of mods that had been done to it. And I don't spend that much money. Like it's so firmly outside of what I know enough about. But I bought this one. It was such a cool instrument, and I could get it for a good price. I could get it for $800. So I got it for $800, and we worked the deal, and I saw a bunch of goodies in the case that were worth a bunch of money, and I figured, okay, I can pad what I'm getting because so you had a bunch of those old, what do you call them? They weren't Alaska picks, but they're like the metal picks that they just go around your finger. They kind of go under your fingernail. They're not, the pad of your finger is open. At the time, 2006 or so maybe this is longer than 7 years ago. However, 15 years ago in 2006, when I was selling this, so anyway, we made the deal. He opened the thing up and I said, I'll pay $800. That's great. And then I said, hey, do you want anything out of the case? And he said, no, everything's fine. So we made the deal. I paid him. And then he's like, well, actually, I'm going to get a couple things out of there. And he goes in, he pulls out the volume pedal, the Showbud volume pedal. He starts pulling out some other stuff. There's a couple extra old pickups in there. And then there's a couple old glass and steel bars. And it put me in such an uncomfortable position because I had to say like, hey man, sorry. Like I meant like, do you want a couple picks? Because this is like, we made the deal, like everything that you see here for $800. And so it was just kind of an uncomfortable situation. Cause he was like, well, he's like, that thing's worth some money. I was like, you should have said that. Like when it's on the table, the case is open and you're saying what you see here for $800, you don't get to take stuff back out. So that was an unfortunate one. Yeah. So, okay, have I ever played a lap steel? Yes. Or a pedal steel? Yes. I'm not very good at it. I would love to spend more time. But instead of learning to play pedal steel, I chose mandolin. And so I know how to play mandolin pretty well at this point. And so that's the direction I headed. It is on a list of like, I would love to pick up one of those little like kind of skateboard looking Bakelite or polyurethane lap steels. Those would be fun. My boss that I used to work for, the Guitar and Amp Center, had hundreds of them. And I'd love to own one, but I haven't played them enough to really be that proficient. So let me check in here for some questions. So Stringjoy strings. Hard to find the Waterloo WLS. The WLX or Scissortail are plentiful. That's it. Yeah, I did not know how rare the WLS is when I bought it. And this one is like, this thing is magical. Also, this has the Stringjoy strings that nobody knows about yet. But I heard Scott talk about them, so hopefully this is okay. Whoops. So this is my 2016 WLS. This has the Stringjoy. These are, if you saw them talking about the String Lab. So since I've been a fan of Stringjoy, I've been asking Scott, like, can you make a coated phosphor bronze string? If you do, I will buy 10 sets a month. Like I just need that kind of string. I like Diodarios, they're fine, but these are just magical. So I'll play these for a second. This is not going to be an accurate representation because it's an SM58, and it's probably getting squash going onto YouTube, but this does sound really good. Oh, got a little droopy there. So these strings are... So this guitar could be a little thumpy, especially with the ladder bracing. Overall, it has a ton of sustain and is very bloomy like a tube amp. But those strings so far, I've had them on there. They've been on there a month probably, and they just sound like wonderful, great. They do feel different. And he said he's been very vague on what their difference is in their coating, but they sound and they play really well, and they feel different. I don't know how to describe it. One thing I've noticed is like if my fingers run across them, it's almost like a violin. Like you get a little bit of the string like coming to life just with the vibration. So they're very resonant. It's a different kind of coating, but still phosphor brown strings. I really like them. So, hey, Gary finally made. Gary's one of my patrons. And yeah, man, thank you so much. Thanks to my patrons. I have 4 ride or die patrons, which that really is to cover the website and the software and the like all the stuff that it takes to make these videos. Just thank you so much. I can't say enough. Jeremy, yeah. Pogmo Thoin, that's nice. Man, that's a hard one to say. Any name, all names are hard to say, and it's always funny to me how many people are like, I'm not good at saying names. I don't think anyone is. But anyway, let me see what else is in here. Mike Pinion has an early 2000s Washburn SJDL made in Korea that sounds great, looks great, trying to sell, but what do you think it's worth? I have no clue. Washburns don't hold their value very well. You could check. There are 3 places I always tell people to check. And if you need help with that, like the buyer's guide does cover this in pretty good detail, like how much is a guitar worth. So the first place I would tell you to check is eBay completed listings. So when you're in eBay, find the thing you're looking for and then scroll all the way down the left. Sometimes it's in show more. You go down and it says show completed listings. Then it will change all the listings to show things that are only done. So they will either have sold or not sold. And if they haven't sold, they're red. If they have sold, they're green. So the green numbers, that's what is things are actually selling for. So you'll find them in there. Now, eBay comes and goes in guitar playing. You know, sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. They're the only organization I know that actually shows you like what things really sold for. Reverb has gotten pretty shady about that. Reverb's gotten shady in general. We'll talk more about that later. I have a story to tell you that blew my mind. It happened just before the live show today. But the other place is Reverb's price guide. They show you like generally where things are in the market, but they only show you gross price. They don't show you if those were free shipping or not, because sometimes that can throw the numbers off. Last place to look is if you get the vintage guitar price guide. There's a link in the description below. It's an Amazon affiliate. There's a handful of links down there, but one of the links is for the vintage guitar price guide. I think everybody should own it. If you were, well, not everyone. I think if you're buying and selling guitars, if you're trying to figure out what things are worth, if you're trying to kind of have some hustle in that space, it's a helpful resource. What I really like and appreciate about the guitar price guide is that it's not tied to the volatility that is modern guitar culture. Like you look at like JHS. So every time Josh makes a video about like the 5 Digitech pedals that you should know, all of a sudden those things shoot up. And so they're super volatile. But if you look typically within 5 or 6 weeks, they come back down. I like the price guide because it gives you year over year data. And so you start seeing like, yeah, these guitars make, you know, steady growth, but they don't they're not tied to, I don't know. I've done this accidentally on purpose. like Favillas have gone way up since I made my videos about them, which I actually sold. That wasn't the plan, but I sold mine and sold it for a lot more than I paid for, but I also paid a bunch to repair it and ship it. So anyway, let me see. There's some good questions in here. Have you ever had your hands on a modern deluxe from Martin? Greetings from Morocco. Hey, Badura from Morocco. Never been to Morocco. I'll come hang. Yeah, I've never been in Africa. I've been in the Middle East a handful of times. But anyway, the modern deluxe. I've played a couple of guitar shops. I've never owned one. I like them. I think it's a cool direction. Do they all have like gold frets and gold hardware, or was that just like the newer ones? They also have a compound radius on the neck, right? I mean, it seems like the right direction to go. Because typically 18s and 28s have these, like, they can be boat anchors of so much tradition tied to them that they get weighed down and people don't ever let them change. So I think by having a firm, kind of a different model of, like, it is an 18, but this is the modern deluxe. Like, this is the current best way that we can make them. And you start changing things up, different, double action truss rods. You start changing up compound radius on the fretboard, different materials, different frets, stainless steel frets. They didn't do stainless, but that kind of idea. I think it's the right way to go. Gary says, any sleeper investment guitars that can be found under $400. A lot of us can't invest a lot of money on a single buy. I totally get it. I think that they're starting to go up in price, but I think the absolute best, the two absolute best sleeper guitars that I know of are like the early Laraves. There are three, and I just bought another one that I'll tell you guys about. I haven't put the video out yet. If you can get early Laraves from the 90s, which early, I mean, they're from the 70s, but if you can find them in the 90s, when they're all satin finishes, but they're all going up in price now. They're not $400. A couple years ago, they were. I still think they are the most guitar you can get for that money. I think the other sleeper guitars, well, while I'm talking about Larave, the new Hudson from Orangewood that I just put out that video earlier this week on, I think that guitar, it is, one, sounds amazing and plays great. The other thing is it totally reminds me of the Laraves from the early 2000s. So I had a 2003, I think, that I sold to my friend Aaron in Waynesboro, Virginia. It's a D03 from Larave. It's just mahogany back and sides, Sitka spruce top. It's basically like an everyman's D18. So that's one. The other one is let me see. I'll go to the third one, then I'll come back to it. Guild. So the older guilds, if you can find a Guild D4 or a Guild D25, if you can find them in the $400 range, again, they're getting tricky. The thing is, everyone is trying to buy guitars right now. And so all guitar prices, every guitar is worth more than it was a year ago. But I don't know I think in a year or two, I think after the pandemic, and I think we will leave with more guitar players. We will end up with more guitar players than we have now. But I think there's a chunk of people that are playing now because of time and availability in the pandemic. I think there will be more guitars that will come available here soon. But I think the next one is Taylor's. So I just bought what I consider like the golden era of Taylor's. I bought a 1998 Taylor 8. Nope. A Taylor 412. I got it for $800. Again, Gary, sorry, these are more expensive than what you're saying. But I think that is just so much guitar. I also got a Gibson J15. But in the $400 range right now, if I had to go find the best guitar I could find for $400, I would look for an Epiphone Masterbuilt, one of the AJs. Those sound wonderful. The Epiphone SJ200s are big and boomy and have a lot of sound. The other one is, if you can find 90s Martin, the DR or the DR2 or the DM, those are all really monsters in that same price. Okay, let me keep looking. A lot of questions. This is so good. I found it. Josh out from Georgia. I like Georgia. I have a bunch of friends in Georgia. Hey man, so this is Raphael. Raphael says, "Hey man, is the Waterloo similar to a double O Martin?" It is thinner than a double O, but it is bigger and longer than a double O. I think it's 14 and a half. I don't have a ruler. I just have my eyes. So it's definitely thinner this way than a double O, because that's one of the main components of this style of guitar. But it's probably about the same size as a double O, but it has the 2 extra frets. So do they make a 0015 SM? I don't know if they make a double O slot headstock. It's not quite the same. This guitar sounds like a dreadnought. It is big and loud and does everything that I need to do. It's not quite a fair comparison to a Martin. It's the closest comparisons to maybe the 0017, their kind of take on the Stella style. I saw that Chris Caraba from Dashboard Confessional has been playing one for a while. My friend Chris Coleman, a worship pastor. Where are you? Chris might be in here. I don't remember where Chris is now. I think he's in Wisconsin, Minnesota. That sounds right. Up north somewhere. Maybe they moved back. Anyway, Chris, if you're out there, tell me about your guitar. Because he also just got a Tone Master, one of the blonde Tone Masters. Anyway, Eric Maxon says, "Hey, I've played a triple O Callings the other day. Wow. How do you think that compares to a comparable Husson Dalton?" Callings are freaking monsters. So is it a triple O one, probably like the 18? So that'd be the same as the triple O. What would they call that? Husson Dalton and Callings pair up very closely. What's interesting, so Husson Dalton is still like they are set on their own innovations. They are much more like everything feels and looks like themselves rather than sticking to just tradition, where Callings really does like, hey, what if we did that same guitar but did it with better materials, better construction? So I think those two are very, very similar. I think you would get more guitar for the money from Husson Dalton. Yeah, check out Artisan Guitars. They do a ton of like, Jesse's been doing a bunch of videos on their channel comparing like Callings versus Callings versus Husson Dalton. Yeah, I think they're very similar, but Husson Dalton, like they do radius tops. Their tops aren't flat. When I say radius, I mean like a 14-foot radius or something. Like it's just a tiny bit of deflection, but it holds the tops tight and they're louder and they're more projection. Yes. Okay. 3-card Monty says, "Did I really attempt a backflip?" I did. I attempted. I didn't land it. I've seen people attempt this and break. Their vertebrae. But yeah, of course. It was on flat ground. It was on a trampoline. But I did, man. My back still isn't quite right between my shoulder blades. It's not. I'm fine. I'm fine. But yeah. I used to try some like crazy stuff. I used to do like big backflips off like in these like high mountain lakes in Virginia. But never again. No more. I tried a gainer a couple times. Not worth it. I also one time I jumped off. It's this place called Stanton Dam, like way out in the valley towards the mountains in West Virginia, and it's like 70 feet. This ledge. I was wearing a pair of flip flops, as one does, and that's what it was. I didn't know how to get my flip flops from the top of the rock to the bottom. I didn't want to throw them down because I have to swim too far to get them. So I was like, I'll just wear them. And so I put my flip flops on and I went to run and jump 70 feet into the water. And when I did, my feet just whack and just immediately just like full crotch to the water. And it was terrible. I blew up both of my sandals and tore a hole in my pants and had to like walk with my legs together back to my car. You know, you came here for a guitarist, you get dumb kind of growing up in the mountain stories. So anyway, yeah, I say I'm fine now. Wait till 30 years from now. All right, Daniel Riccabona. Hey, man, how are you? Daniel has one of the coolest freaking guitars. Dana, I just want to come to Germany, or I want to come to Austria, just hang out and play your guitar with you, and hang out. So, trying to buy an octave mandolin, very difficult here in Europe. They're very hard to find here in the States too. They're becoming more common, but they're really hard to find. I have one, and I need to play it more on the channel. I play it all the time, just not on my YouTube videos. But can't make up your mind between an Eastman MD305 and the Weber Highlight. Get the Weber. Get the Weber. So I almost bought. I came really close. There's a video of me. I think it's called "Buying Guitars on Your Lunch Break" or something. And I played a 30s Martin 0018. I also, at the end of that video, I played an MD305 from Eastman, and I could have bought it for $575. I think is what they offered me, and they would cover tax. So it really was like $530 something. I didn't buy it because it's just a little. It didn't have enough low end, like the A style to me. The A style, the polyurethane finish, the blah blah blah. It just wasn't quite there. And so I think if you're going to get one, you need to go all the way. Another really good option. Mine is a Pono. I don't know how you pronounce it. So they're designed in Hawaii. It's like from a company that makes ukuleles, but they've made some octave mandolins, and they're made in Indonesia. I got mine for $725 with a really good hard case from Carter Vintage. I think those are awesome. Am I in the unofficial Martin Guitar Forum? I am not. I used to be. I don't like. There's too many freaking know-it-alls. So not necessarily like the unofficial Martin Guitar Forum is fine. The one that gets me is Reddit. I got banned from the guitar Reddit for a while, and I'm not a fan. So, not my thing. No, with this, like I still have a login to the unofficial Martin Guitar Forum. I think it's Jimmy Sheep, but I haven't been on in years. One of the things I was trying to figure out, so a couple months ago, people kept knowing details that I had not shared publicly about certain guitar deals. And I found out that it was people on unofficial Martin Guitar Forum, a couple of which I actually know and I talked to, and then they were telling stuff. And so, anyway, it felt a little gossipy. It's fine. Whatever. Any recommendations for Parlor nylon string acoustic with pickup? Decent budget minded. Sheesh, that's a challenge. Okay. One, you didn't ask for this, but let's talk about Parlor guitars, what that means. I wouldn't call classical guitars Parlor guitars. Parlor guitars are typically a Martin, either a single O is the biggest or a 2 size, like a 217, which is tiny. It's smaller than a classical. So a classical and a double O are about the same size. So that's just one of my, I won't call it a pet peeve, but it's just one of the things, like, I think Parlor guitar is just too broad of a phrase for certain things. So a small classical Cordoba in that price range. Cordoba pretty much owns that space. I'm going to do another video when we get back to Virginia with my friend Chris, who is a wizard of classical guitars. He's an amazing, check him out on Instagram. It's Virginia Guitarist. He's just a wonderful classical player. And so he knows a ton about like dual tops and just crazy classical guitars, and they sound amazing. I just don't know enough about them to talk informed about them. But I think, Cordoba would be a good fit in there. Some of the Ibanez or Alvarez are good in that same kind of $300-$400 range. Alvarez is always incredibly playable. They're always much better playing than they are sounding. But anyway. Gary from Yorkshire. What are your thoughts on the Indonesian and Far East guitars, especially from the USA founded? Oh, yes. Guys, I've lost track. Okay, it's not out. It will be out next week. I did a video on the Breedlove Cascade, the triple O that I had. And so this guitar is entirely designed in the US, built in Korea, set up in the US, and then sold in the US. I'm sure they sell them all over, but they come back here and they get set up in Oregon. I think some brands do it really well and other brands do it poorly. Brands that do it really well, I think, and it's not just Korea, but it's also China. So like Eastman does it really well. Reverend was the first company to really do this right, to like get construction and finish done in China, and then you ship all the guitars and you ship all the parts and pieces, and then you assemble them in the US. They're a little different. But Eastman, for most of the ones that I've played, sound and play really good. Um, I think Blue or Bridge, sheesh, my brain. Uh, Not Blue Ridge, Breedlove. The Breedlove that I had, so it's interesting. Like you can still tell that it's a Korean guitar. Like the finish is polyurethane, and it's kind of thick. It reminds me of a Blue Ridge. And then it is a pyramid bridge. It's a really cool looking bridge, but it's like the platen or the flat part of the bridge is up higher than you would expect. I don't want to say too high. Um, I think that's the best way to do it. Cool design, like Orangewood. That's their whole thing. Is like expertly designed guitars in the U.S., built in China or Indonesia, and then come back and then they say that they set them all up before they send them out. I've owned two, and both of the two that I've owned have been great. So I have no issues. I have no complaints. I think they're good. What else? Get ready from Yorkshire. I don't have enough experience with either the Yamaha or the Eastman. I've reached out to both of them. Eastman is they seem fairly averse to working with YouTubers or review channels, which I can understand. But I've tried Eastman 3 times now, and they've told me that they don't really do YouTube, and then I don't have enough subscribers. So find 80,000 of your friends. When I get to 100,000 subscribers, I'll go back to them. And we'll dig in and we'll make sure that we get them. The other way to do this is that I could just buy a chunk of them and then either sell them, and as long as I can get enough views to offset that, I could be up for that. But I feel like there are better ways to do it. Um, yeah, Whitewood. Back on sides, Whitewood. I think Whitewood is basically just like a nondescript. Like it's probably wait, Whitewood back and sides? I don't know. I've never heard that. It may just be they don't know. Or it's because it's kind of like when you this is weird. This is a weird segue. Prepare your hearts, minds, and souls. A couple years ago, there was this big news story about how like the chances of you when you order tuna actually getting tuna in a restaurant was super low because there's thousands of species of fish, but we only know like 30 or 40 in restaurants. So the reality is like mahogany is far too broad of a term for most back and sides wood. So I don't know. It's probably just like they don't know. I would bet birch. I see that down there. I would bet birch, um, or poplar. But poplar is more greeny, but they would call it whitewood. Birch makes the most sense because that's like traditionally what would be used on like Stella's, Harmonies, K, some of those. Um, what kind of tool do you use for? What kind of tool do you use or method for lowering saddle in small increments? Is this acoustic guitar or electric guitar? Electric guitar, almost always it's Allen wrenches, and if you need this before you do it because you can mess up guitars pretty easily. You need to know what the radius of your fingerboard is, and then you can get one of those little like it's a curve with a little thing you can hold up, and so that way you can hold it and you can see where all the strings need to be on the radius of the to match the fingerboard, and then you can set the action. Basically, that's how you can get it as low as you can, and it still buzzes and clears, or it still clears without buzzing, and it isn't weird. It doesn't feel too flat or strange. On an acoustic guitar, which I had a hunch that's where you're headed, but I figured I'd give you some free info while I waited for your response. On an acoustic guitar, it's a little more crude. So basically, on almost like if you have just like a set saddle, you have to take it out and you would sand on the bottom. Um, yeah. So with that, you need a belt sander. An orbital sander is okay, but an orbital sander doesn't spin as much on the middle, so you tend to like you'll get your saddles looking a little smiley facey to where they have a high spot in the middle and they rock, or they have a high spot in the middle and they rock either side. So if you have a belt sander and you can flip it upside down, or if you have like a proper like bench top belt sander, that might be your best bet. You can also just hold a flat piece of, if you have a flat surface, you can hold paper down, sandpaper down, hold the saddle, and then you can move that and catch it. Oh, don't, Gary. That's not a fair question. So he says, if my guitar room was flooding and I could only save one guitar, or the same question, like if my house is on fire, one guitar could save. Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question. I'll run through the guitars I have right now. I have Sam's Martin D41. I have my Hassan Dalton TDM. I have my Waterloo. I have, sheesh, too many guitars. I have my Tom DeLonge Strat. I have my Rude Revelator. I have my Pono Octave Mandolin. I have an Orangewood Hudson. I have my American Professional 2 Strat. So it's really a tie. The hardest guitar to ever find again would be, yeah, the hardest one to find again, because there is only one of them in the world, is my Rude Revelator from Evan in New Orleans with Rude guitars. That is the hardest one to find because, yeah, there is literally only one. There is not another one. But he's around. He's still making guitars. He's a friend. I could make more. So the other one is, what are guitars that are actually irreplaceable? I couldn't find another one. It would probably be Sam's D41. That's not my favorite guitar that I own. And it's not even the most, but it's just like, it's the most sentimental and the most, like, I couldn't get another one. I would risk it for the biscuit and I would go back in a couple times. But I think like my American Pro 2, it's an amazing guitar. It's really important to me because of when I got that guitar, and like it's a good sign of growth of my YouTube channel. But at the same time, I can find another one. That's a good tricky question. All right. Yep. The thing from Stu Mac, for the saddles. Okay, Stu Mac has so many good solutions for that stuff, and they have really good YouTube videos. Um, yeah, I'm also excited for Sam's D41 because it just needs some work. Like right now, it plays pretty hard, and so I'm excited to get it playing a lot better. Yeah, man. There's another question. There are a couple questions, so we have like 15 more minutes, which we don't have to end it at 3 Eastern time, but I'll try, and I don't want to take too much of the day. Um, so Patrick Carr Music on Instagram says, thoughts on instrument insurance. I'm petrified of getting my ride or die gear stolen. So I don't have like just gear insurance. Like in the same way that you wouldn't, like, if you have health insurance, you wouldn't get cancer insurance or like accidental death insurance. Like, to quote Dave Ramsey, like, you won't be extra dead. Like, you have one policy to cover. So I would check. So most renters policies or homeowners insurance policies cover some of that, or car insurance. Like if you get your car broken into and your stuff stolen out of a car, sometimes they don't cover the contents of a trailer. So you just have to be really careful and really dig in. You can ask either your insurance agent or your underwriter on like, hey, when is my stuff covered? Is my stuff covered? And if not, you can add an umbrella policy that would cover just like, hey, generally in life, that you could activate. So I wouldn't buy a specific policy for it, but I would check the existing policies you have and just look for your total exposure to like your liability in life. And with some of them, you should be okay. Like under $1,000, it sucks to lose stuff, but I don't think it's worth buying a policy because most policies will cost you more than that within a couple of years. Okay, that's a really good question. Um, so thoughts on reviewing Grote or Dragonfly sub $200 guitars? I don't ever see them. I'll reach out to them and ask. I don't, because that's so outside of, and I know like I want to be a resource for all people trying to find the right guitar for them. But it's so far outside of what I would normally buy. Like I wouldn't buy $195 guitar from Orangewood. Like I'm not their audience. Like I'm into the like hard drugs of like I want a torrified thermo, like I want a thermo cured 0018 with slope shoulder. Like I want, high end crazy guitars. What any single line from a song back in the day that stands out? Hang on, let me run at this again. This is Austin Goy 98 on Instagram. Says a single line from any song that lives in the back of your mind day in and day out. That's a really good question. One of the bands I loved when I was in like the very end of high school into college was this band called Paige France. They're from Baltimore. Um, they um, they have a song called Chariot. And in this song, Chariot, there's this line that says, "You were born to glow majestically." That used to be the name of my blog back in the day when I wrote a blog. But yeah, you were born to glow majestically. That who you are and what you're meant for is to bring about light and joy and peace in the world. And so you live into that. Each day you show up and you try to do that. So that's one of those lyrics that just lives with me all the time. You were born, or you were meant to glow majestically. Um, so anyway, so that's a really important song lyric to me. Um, and it's also funny because I love that lyric and I've listened to that record too many times. Like I listen to it and I'm like, oh, I've heard this 10,000 times. All right. Gary from Yorkshire. Full lockdown here in the UK. So trying before buying a guitar is kind of hard. Any tips or tricks for this, specifically used guitars? Yeah. So that's the whole thing at the end. That's the tricky part. So here in the States, guitar shops they're not as strict as where you guys are. But you're able to schedule appointments. Like I know Carter Vintage in Nashville, when I was down there, we were able to schedule, like, you come in, you sanitize your hands, you kind of pick 3 or 4 guitars, you get to play those, sanitize your hands between each one, you stay 6 feet from people. But it feels like there is a little bit of pressure. Like you don't get to just go putz around. I've still been buying guitars and selling guitars over the last couple months during lockdown in the States. And our lockdown is different than the UK. But with ours, I'm still like wearing a mask, sanitizing my hands, like really clear expectations beforehand. I don't know if you're going to get to just try stuff out. I think if you're buying stuff, but I don't know. The UK is tricky. I think your best bet is probably guitar shops. So you can find a guitar shop that does have used stuff, and then you get to go and just hang out with them. So, one of the questions that I was asked was, it was Mitch Horner. And so he knows that we're in Louisiana for a while. And like you saw, like the first day we were here, we were swimming in the pool. I wasn't. It's too cold. But it was like 70 couple degrees, and like some of the family jumped in the pool. And I was flying the drone, and it was super fun. And like he asked, would we ever move back to the South? Which we still live in the South, but not like Virginia South and Louisiana South are very different. Um, I don't know, man. Like who are we to say? Like especially nothing is more poignant than like during pandemic. Like who are we to make plans? We don't know what will be a year from now. And with that said, we moved from Louisiana. The biggest thing was I was leaving a career and I had a non-compete. So we were looking at Nashville, and then it wasn't until we spent a year looking at houses in Nashville. We had a realtor. We're trying to figure it out. And it wasn't until we realized, like, where would we go for our kids to grow up to be like happy, healthy, whole people who are around people that are very different than them and believe different things and think different things. And that's when my wife and I both like really knew that we'd be back in the Valley, because the Shenandoah Valley is one of the most diverse places in the U.S. and they do it really well. There's this deep symbiosis between like old Mennonite, which I'm not Mennonite, but like old Mennonite values, and then also like UN relocation, like people from the Middle East and people from all over the world. And lots of people in our neighborhood are from Africa, or from Sudan or Uganda. And so anyway, would we ever move back to the South? I don't think so. I love it down here. I would love our dream situations where we get to where we can spend 2 or 3 months down here a year. But the majority are 9 months of the year. We're still there. We're also looking at spending time in Nashville, but we have such a great community in the Valley that we feel really like happy and planted, and our kids are great, and we love our house. And I love like 4 really distinct seasons until it's just cold and gray and rainy all the time. And then I question the existence of good and hope in the world. But yeah, so yeah. What would you buy for your first electric guitar? This is Bonefish Flat on Instagram. What would you buy for your first electric guitar? Your first electric guitar is really your first foray, so you don't know what you really want as much as you know like you have a couple ideas of what you're into. So I wouldn't buy any guitar that's like super locked into one thing. I would not get anything with like a locking tremolo. I wouldn't get anything with super hot humbuckers. I would get an HSS Strat. I would get something with a humbucker and then 2 singles. I have a guitar coming that I can't wait to show y'all that I think is like, if it's your first guitar, it's like this should be it or something very similar to it. Yeah, but I think because the Fender scale length is really comfortable, everything about that just seems right. Yeah, an HSS Strat would be my first recommendation. Other than that, a Telecaster, because a Telecaster can do anything that you want to do. Which I used to like. I used to want Tellies to just be twangy, and I would like feel weird when I was like, oh, I could play punk rock on my telly, or I could play metal, or like, yeah, they don't tellies don't live in the box that we've been told that they live in. So anyway, Gary again. If I like seasons, I should try Yorkshire. I'm in. Man, I've wanted to come to the UK for so long. So most of my family is from Ireland and Wales. When I really look at like, which I won't like, I don't know if Yorkshire is in Wales. Who knows? You would know. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Hey, starting to build your own guitars with high school age kids, and we're learning on the go. Always on a budget, but junk is junk. Any suggestions for electric kits? Stu Mac has such great stuff. Their golden era where you can get like a loaded pick guard. That's so good. And their bodies are really good. The only one I would avoid, like Warmouth, just doesn't play well with other parts. Like Warmouth, kind of like their neck heel is different and it's not as deep. But like, so I would go with like Stu Mac or Mighty Might. Those are the two. And I think Stu Mac even they used to sell Mighty Might. Yeah, those are great, man. And then if you can get tuners pretty cheap. And I'll keep looking. I might have some stuff. Oh, my battery on the camera is going down. So anyway, we will call it there. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'm Jeremy. I am the Guitar Hunter. Go to jeremytheguitarhunter.com if you haven't. You can buy coffee. You can buy t-shirts. You can buy the buyer's guide. This was super fun hanging out. I didn't even get to tell the story that I was going to tell. Okay, I'll save it for next week. There's a story of reverb ruining somebody's life and just total buffoonery. So hang on, let me get the battery. I have to tell this story. I will be right back. I'll get another battery. Hey! I can't believe that worked. Are we good? Somebody give me a thumbs up if we're good. Or just say, we are good. Testing, testing. Are we good? Can you hear me? All right, we're good. Thanks, John. Again, I have a friend. He lives around here named Jonathan Welch. I keep thinking that's who it is. Okay. I can't leave this story out. It's too ridiculous and too absurd. So the first video I ever had that blew up was a video that I made about how reverb screwed me over. Basically about $1,500. I ended up footing the bill, and it was just a bad situation. So it's unfortunate that that's the video that blew up of mine, because that really is not my style. Like, I'm not just I'm just not. I don't like publicly complaining. But there is now a video with like 230,000 views of me complaining about reverb screwing over their sellers. Let me find this. Okay, so it's a little there's some stuff to read here, but hang in here, listen, and I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions on this. Okay, so this comes from my friend Jeff. So Jeff said, "Hey, big fan of your guitar channel, love your content. I recently sold a Taylor 814 CE on Reverb, and I purchased the Safe Shipper, or the Safe Ship, which is the buyer protection. I sent it through USPS because they actually handle guitars quite well. It was held up in shipping, and the buyer requested a refund. Reverb suggested to wait until the resolution team had contacted us within 1 to 3 days. The time came and went, and the buyer really wanted his money back, so I felt obligated to do so, and I did. That's the mistake. Immediately, I tried to have this redirected, and it said it was successful. Then a couple weeks later, they said UPS or USPS said they weren't able to redirect it and it would be sent to the original address. Finally, after 45 days, it showed up and it was signed for. Not having payment in this message, or not having payment in this message, I messaged the buyer and asked him to have it sent back. He said he doesn't have it and he didn't know who signed for it. After contacting the postal service, I learned that it was shipped to a re-shipper, or a warehouse that people use for tax-free purchases. I contacted the seller, and he finally tells me this. Then the warehouse says they don't have it. I called and asked, and they kept hanging up on me. Now I'm very worried. The buyer says he went to the warehouse, and finally the guitar shows up. And he's still interested in keeping it, but he wants $100 knocked off for his trouble. I disagreed and asked him to ship it back, and he says he will ship it back, but hopefully it's the same guitar. This whole time, I think I'm protected, but Reverb tells me that because it was refunded, it wasn't protected. I'm assuming because it hasn't been received, or I'm assuming because it's been received, which tells me their protection is nothing more than carrier shipper and shipping insurance. I guess I'm telling you this because I feel like a seller should be, or I guess I'm telling you this because I feel as a seller, we should have a right to know about a reshipper. Once it reaches them, I really don't know if it's the seller or if the seller is still protected. There's a lot going on there. A guy sold a guitar to someone on Reverb. Sorry, I'll try that again. Guy bought a Taylor 814 CE and he shipped it. On the way there, the guy who bought it decided he didn't want it anymore. And under pressure and all this stuff, instead of waiting for Reverb Resolutions to jump in, the guy felt obligated, felt bad, and said, okay, I'll go ahead and refund you. So he refunded the guy. And then he tried to redirect that guitar back to him. The guitar was not going to the guy's house. It was going to a warehouse. And it's a warehouse, and I haven't heard about this. I want to look into this more. But it goes to a warehouse that is used to avoid paying sales tax. I don't know how that works. But they had it, and then he called them, told them to send it back, and then all of a sudden they didn't have it. And in that time, it seems like the guy who originally was going to buy it, who now has his money back, got the guitar. So he got a guitar that was labeled to him, but it was supposed to go back. And then all of a sudden he gets it. And he says, well, I would keep it, but I need $100 off for my trouble, which he's the one that caused all of this trouble. So then the guy who wanted to buy it, didn't buy it, got a refund, has the guitar, and he's basically like, for $100, he's hijacking the deal and not shipping it back. He finally said he would ship it back. Reverb Protection has said, hey, because you refunded it and you sent it to a reshipper, it's not our thing. So I think there are a couple big takeaways from this, and I caught a couple of things that I missed the first time. A couple of things that like should not have happened. You should not ever refund somebody until you have the guitar back or Reverb has the guitar back in their possession. There is no way that I trust someone, especially with, like, I don't know how much that guitar was. I'm assuming 1,500 to $2,000. How much are 814s now? Yeah, 15 to $2,000. And so he should not have refunded the guitar before he got it back. He should have said, like, hey, I'm sorry, we're all in limbo. It's during the pandemic. It's a weird time, man. This is one of the things that you knew when you bought a guitar during a pandemic, is that you might not get the guitar back in time. So that's the big one. The next one is Reverb should have, one, not let him refund it. Like, they should have been actively aware of what's going on. I think once something goes to resolutions, Reverb should change it to where the seller can't do refunds. That way it all funnels through seller protection, or the, what do they call that team? The resolutions team. It should have gone through them. The other thing is Reverb should be on the hook because they let him ship it, like, through Reverb's platform. They sent it to a reshipper. So I guess it's a warehouse that gets it, and then they ship it to someone else. So maybe I'm guessing, I'm speculating here, but maybe that company has an offshore address, or like they don't technically do business in all these other states, and so that's how they're able to get around the sales tax of it. But there's a lot going on in that story that is not just not good. And in the end, it's not totally Reverb's fault, but it is painfully true. And this is the lesson that I learned years ago, is that the seller pays for protection, but it does not protect the seller. It protects the buyer. They will always side with the buyer because that is who is paying to blah, blah, blah. That's who's paying, and they're able to put credit card fees on and processing fees and the Reverb fee itself. So you're buying it. So that's the whole issue that I have with Reverb, is that they are a platform that profits off of the sale of gear that they don't buy, they don't take care of, they don't ship. I mean, it's just literally like they are middlemen making a bunch of money off of sellers. And so that's why, like, my relationship with Reverb, like, I have backed off. Like, and it is only because I have a YouTube channel and an Instagram following, and people see the guitars that I have, that I'm able to sell them. So I sell stuff through my website. I sell stuff, locally. But I don't trust Reverb because I've just been burned so many times by Reverb. It was 4 times in a row in Louisiana. I had a Martin D35, a D1235S that was perfect, wonderful guitar, and a guy got it and said it was like super dirty, wanted his money back. He was like, I'll keep it if you give me $700 off. And I was like, send that thing back right now. And I got it back, and it was fine. It was like totally good to go. Sold it to another guy who was totally happy and tickled pink. But it cost me like 3 weeks and a bunch of headache. Then I had an SG. It is 66 SG, had nylon saddles. It was a cool, weird guitar. I had a really narrow nut. And I told the guy, I was like, this is 1 inch and 9/16. This is a pencil neck. It's very thin. And he got it. He's like, I didn't realize the neck would be that small. And it's just one of those dumb, like, it is literally in not just the description, but it's in the title. It's like a 1966 SG with narrow neck. And that was one that Reverb made me take back. They made me take it back again. And then I had the crazy saga of the ES175 that I said, like, it's a great guitar. It has a couple issues. Here are the issues. And then I had 2 buyers in a row buy it and like didn't read the descriptions. So anyway, rant over. Reverb does not protect sellers ever. They will hang you out to dry every time. And so the only people that Reverb is good for is buyers. But I think there are enough sellers now that are just saying, like, this is not worth it. Like we will sell directly through our website. We'll go back to eBay. I'll pay 12% to eBay to not have to deal with reverb, because reverb is now like 11% on the last couple things that I've sold. Anyway, rant over. Let me look and see what you guys say. All right, looks like we're good. I'm glad I checked it now. Okay. Joe selling a bunch of gear for friends. A friend's widow. I've been there. That's hard. I'm sorry, man. Most of it's worth $100 to $500. I'm using Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. Um, Joe, email me and I'll send you a copy of my buyer's guide. Joe Selness. I'll help you. So that I've been in the very same boat. There are 3 widows that I helped when I was still here in Louisiana. That I basically took all the guitars, inventoried them, all the parts, pieces, knobs, whatever, inventoried them, and then sold everything. She got the net. I put a fee on top of selling it and shipping and all that stuff. But I can help you out with that. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me peruse through the last questions and then we are done. This is a fun weekend. All right. So yeah, so we talked about Jeff. Let me see what else. Instrument insurance, we covered that. Single line from a song. Will they ever move back to the South? I think that's it. I think I did everything. Any last questions? Yeah, Joe, send me an email and we'll talk and I'll help you get that coordinated. Did I miss any other questions? If not, coming up this week, in the guitar hunting world. So I put out a video yesterday on an orange rocker verb. Nope, not a rocker verb. It's just a rocker. Cool little ragey amp. If you're interested in that, it'll be for sale here soon. It's still in Virginia. I'm here, so I'm not in too much of a rush to sell it. I am trying to get a couple guitars while I'm here. I am hot on the trail of a cool tenor guitar. I'm also looking at a Gibson 330 next week, but still trying to be really careful. And yeah, everything's good here, moving along. Yes, thought I killed my computer today. It just wouldn't turn on, and I ended up having to call the Apple store, and I don't know if it's working now, but it just got a little crazy there for a bit. But if you order shirts, coffee, all that stuff, it's still in Virginia. I don't have a great way of getting it shipped while I'm here because I still fulfill all those orders myself. But if you do, I can figure it out. So go ahead and buy if you're interested. Follow me on Patreon, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this is super fun. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a really good weekend. Go fill the world with music and friendship. You were meant to glow majestically. Find the lyric that sticks out in your heart and mind that just works for you. So have a good weekend. I'll see you later. I'm going to play guitar for a minute. I'll hang around for the last bits of questions if somebody has questions. Hey, Tom. All right, everybody, have such a good weekend. It was fun hanging out. I'll see you soon.